There. Today, I want to talk about something that I hear from so many women, whether they're looking to change careers or launch businesses or, take a new class or pretty much anything. And that is imposter syndrome. The dreaded imposter syndrome, which if you happen to have any kind of neurodivergence that might travel with rejection sensitivity dysphoria, you get the extra charge of not only panicking about the imposter syndrome, but also the inevitable rejection that is going to come when you're found out as a fraud, and how much your life will suck after that, because everything will end. So yay. And there are so many ways out there, and got so much advice out there on how to combat imposter syndrome. I never found it very helpful for me, possibly because it just wasn't speaking to the way my brain works. It's gotten a little bit easier now that I have a diagnosis, and I know that it's more, it's hitting me harder because it's my brain, but still it's more of a struggle. And so I wanted to share with you all what works for me. Maybe it'll help you out. If you have any ideas or things that help you in particular, but I'd love to hear them, because none of these are foolproof. None of them work on all situations, and we're all different, and we all think about things differently. And that's one of the things that I love about working with different people, is just how you perceive things, and it's always really interesting to me. So the way I think about it starts with the story about taking my son and his friend to school. So my son and a good friend of mine's daughter have been going to school together forever. They went to preschool, now they're in elementary school together. They live very nearby, so I drive them to school and my friend picks them up. And so this was, maybe they were in like late kindergarten, early first grade. And we were driving to school one day, and it was a beautiful, clear, beautiful blue skies, not a cloud, and a full moon was still up. You could see it. And it was just the beautiful white and like the sharp contrast. It was lovely. And I pointed it out. I was like, oh, look, there's the moon. And I just meant it as a lovely little, let's look at the moon and enjoy this beautiful image. And it being, 6 or 7 year olds, they immediately started fighting over it. And it was because my son commented that the moon was following us. And his friend was like, that's an illusion. It's not real. The moon isn't following us. And then my son countered with, no, the illusion is real. The moon is following us. And then she was like, well, my mom said that illusions aren't real. And so they get into this bickering thing, and they all bring in the authority of their moms, people... that logical fallacy of the authority, reaching to authority starts young. And so I was like, okay, I have to explain this because I can see where their disconnect is. And, it's like 8:03 in the morning and not enough coffee, and they're being so loud. And I was like, okay, well, actually, guys, you're both right. That the moon appears to be following us is real. It really does appear like it's following us. That illusion as a concept and as a phenomenon that we see is real. The fact, however, is that the moon is not following us. It's doing its own moon thing, and it just looks like it is. So the illusion is real, but illusions themselves are not real. So you're both kind of right. And, I kind of explained it, and they're kind of looking at me, and I'm just like, come on, please change the topic, which I think they did. But as I was thinking about it, I was realizing that that is kind of like what imposter syndrome is. Imposter syndrome is that illusion that the moon is following you like a celestial stalker. And that's kind of what your imposter syndrome is, maybe not celestial, but definitely like a stalker. It's very real, that feeling and that worry and that concern and that all that stuff that it does in your head. But the fact is, it's not real as a factual thing, because it's impossible for you to be an imposter in your own life. I mean, your life is like the moon. It is there. It is yours. I mean, unless you're actually like impersonating other people, in which case that's like fraud and not imposter syndrome. I mean, if you're just living your life and you're doing what you do, you can't be an imposter. The fact is that the illusion is not real. And the thing is, though, there's nothing you can do about the moon looking like it's following you. Like you can logic your way out of it and be like, no, the moon is not following me. It's still going to look like it's following you. So your imposter syndrome, no matter how much you logic it out that it's not fact, it's still going to follow you. It's not going anywhere. It's so then what do you do with it? Because because it isn't going to leave you. And so then there's all these, like I've heard several times, to make friends with your imposter syndrome, but that like feels a little bit, I don't know. It's just, I understand the concept, but I need to think about it a little bit differently, like rather than like making friends with my imposter syndrome. So I started thinking about it more like that friend that you already have. You made friends with a long time ago. You don't have to think about how you became friends with them. But that it's just part of your life, but it's also like super nervous, like Cameron from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Always worried they're going to get in trouble, can't seem to get out of his own way, is kind of stuck in a very uninteresting life because of his fear. But Ferris loves him and invites him along and is just like, yeah, I hear you. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Come what may. And Cameron follows along and, is always, expressing concerns, but it doesn't change what Ferris is doing. In fact, if it did, the movie would have been very short or very boring. If, when Ferris calls Cameron, he's like, hey, let's go do something. And, Cameron's like, yeah, no, that would be a bad idea. And Ferris is like, oh, you're right. Like, there's no movie. There's no like iconic, all of the stuff that you remember from that movie. My particular favorite is the scene at the restaurant where they're just so far out of their depth and they just don't care. They don't belong in this ritzy restaurant, but they're just going with it. So at any rate, after that tangent, so there's nothing you can do about the moon following. You can't get rid of your Cameron. But when you think about it, Cameron ultimately realizes he was wrong, and it's better to just keep going and trying new things. And the moon, as it's following you, is kind of lighting your way. It's guiding your next step, even if it looks a little dark and scary. It's letting you know where you need to go, and that is what imposter syndrome does. It's trying to keep you safe, and so it's doing its little, oh no, we're gonna get in trouble, or oh, it's a little dark and scary over there. But as you keep going, it's not really that scary, and it's not anything you really need to worry about. And imagine what happens if you don't take those steps and you just stop. There's no movie, there's no life, there's no more that you could have that you're entitled to, and you don't want to miss out on what's out there because of an illusion. So anyway, that's how I think about it sometimes, and that helps me. Not all the times, but a lot of times that helps me out. So upcoming, I'll be talking about some more things that I hear from women who want to make a big change and are feeling held back for some reason. And so I would love to have you join. If you have any ideas about or tips about how you've combated imposter syndrome, I would love to hear those too as well, like I said before. And if you want to follow along, please like and share and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.